Washington Commanders are on fire after they just traded for Deebo Samuel, the wide receiver from the San Francisco 49ers, who had requested a trade during Super Bowl week. This is for an undetermined 5th-round pick of all compensation. Ryan, I think I don't know your name. I need to go to bed. Sean, I think that there's two sides to this that we need to look at. The Commander side and the 49er side. For the Commanders, this is a great poll. Only a 5th-round pick for a guy on the last year of his contract. You had the 3rd most amount of cap space available before you made the trade, so this is not going to put any stress on your ability to continue to build this roster during the rest of free agency. Deebo is not a guy who this year was forced to be the number 1 receiver for the 49ers because Brandon Ayuk went down with an injury. He's not the type of guy that's going to be the primary target. He's going to play off of the fact that there is a super dynamic guy on the outside in Terry McLaurin that he can be used creatively by Cliff Kingsbury to get open and to create splash plays. This is going to be a successful passing offense that's only going to get better. Keep seeing people downplaying this for the Commanders. This is an awesome move for really, really cheap capital. But I got to bring up here, Sean, for the 49ers side, I think that this is a really concerning move that they're making. I know that they were in a difficult spot, that Deebo had requested a trade. And when I say this is less to do with Deebo specifically, but more with what the future of this franchise is going to be once they sign Brock Purdy to an extension. It seems very likely that Brock Purdy is going to be making in the range of what Jared Goff was making that he just got on his $50+ million a year contract. That's what's been reported on. That's what a lot of people keep saying is he's going to be in that ballpark, 55, 57, which is going to take up a ton of room on the cap. Brock Purdy was great for the 49ers because he was cheap and they could keep paying everybody else around him. And now we're in the situation where he is now going to be the most expensive player on their salary cap. So they're eventually going to have to deal with more and more of this going forward in the next few off seasons of trying to ship off their most important players. They're not going to have the money to dish out these big contracts like they gave to Deebo. Right. Now, Brandon Ayuk is being brought up and discussed as a possible player that could get moved during free agency. I think this is going to be a slippery slope. I think Brock Purdy is going to get all this money, and then we're going to watch a very mediocre 49ers team struggle to pay its top guys.
These are two teams heading in two different directions. W take on the Commanders earlier, by the way. We'll get to it. I didn't think that San Francisco had the balls to dish Deebo. I genuinely didn't think. I think in the offseason we were looking at the teams like, yeah, it might be smart if they did. I think a lot of smart people would say it makes sense. I don't know if I didn't think San Francisco had the capability of getting rid of such a vet that has been so good for the 49ers for so long, but they made the smart play. They got rid of the money. Washington could pay the money. They had the space. They will be picking up the $18+ million that Deebo's owed this year. And they're getting a really good veteran wide receiver or offensive player, I think, is how he's going to be used in Kingsbury's system. The Washington fans are already getting out ahead of themselves a little bit, thinking that Cliff Kingsbury is going to do something different or really be a guy to give Deebo Samuel like a second wind at the end of this thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I think Deebo, this year, we saw what he's going to be for the rest of his career. Thick wide receiver. He can catch the ball.
Just call him fat. Just call him fat. You want to call him fat. Just call him fat. You've called him fat.
Fat Deebo was tough. And I think, fat Deebo's make a lot of money.
Maybe he's pulling a Luka Doncic, James Harden.
He could have been. I would love to see that in the NFL. See you guys start exploding out of their jerseys just to get on a different team. That'd be great. But Washington is a team that is on the rise. San Francisco, a team that is their upwards momentum has definitely stalled. I'm not necessarily calling them on the downslope yet, but they're not rising for sure. They're closer to going down than they are going up, especially because they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy a bunch of money. And if they had the balls, they wouldn't do it. They'd say, here's our offer for you. It's not any more of this negotiation, lowball nonsense. It's this is your value. We're going to outwardly state it. We're not paying you any more than this because this is what you are worth to us. If you want to go somewhere else, get the money, so be it. but we're going to be a competent front office and not go in the hole for 5 years like some of these bad teams do for a quarterback that they're still unsure of. And if you think the jury still isn't out on Purdy, you're completely wrong. I don't think that front office knows what they have with him and knows what they want him to be for them.
Well, what now becomes like really interesting to pay attention to with the 49ers is you put them on this big deal. There's still room to prove us wrong. Like I'm free to admit that. Like there is all the time to prove us wrong that Purdy can be the focal point of this roster. But I would still argue that what helped get them to the Super Bowl was the fact that they were able to pay Trent Williams as one of the highest paid. Actually, I think he was the highest paid tackle when they gave him.
He was. No,
he was highest paid tackle.
And he's trying to get paid even more.
George Kittle was the highest paid tackle. Nick Bosa was one of the highest paid defensive players.
McCaffrey, highest paid running back.
So they're able to pay all these guys. And now I feel like every single headline that we keep hearing with the 49ers is, oh, this guy might be on the move. This guy might be now in the mix to move. Where we can be proven wrong, and what has to be done to prove us wrong is, can they find value in mid to late round guys, and can Brock Purdy elevate those guys? I don't think that he can. I think that what's helped at least Jared Goff is that when he got paid what he was paid, all of their playmakers, all of their important weapons, and even their best defensive player, Nathan Hutchinson, none of those guys were really on their second deals.
Right.
Like unless I'm missing someone, most of those players on that team are still on their rookie contracts, except for Amon-Ra, who just got a new deal.
It would be like Frank Ragnow also. He was part of that older guard before.
And he wasn't really going to command.
He was
an interior
offensive
guy.
lineman. You got Taylor Decker getting paid. You have offensive linemen getting paid, which is like, it's like buying the tires for your car. It's a necessity. You're going to have to pay the offensive line. It's not some big expense where you're getting new rims put on. No, you need the tires to move the car.
Well, it's kind of like the 49ers roster is like you spent like 10 grand on crazy spinning rims.
Yeah.
Like you just got like the juiced up. The car looks great, but you need a new engine. And the new engine that you got is like a 2-cylinder.
Yeah, it's not a lemon. It can go. And the Purdy situation, it's crazy how they are going to be. When I spoke a lot last season about Buffalo. I was wrong about this, severely wrong about this. I thought Buffalo's window was closing because they were losing a lot of talent, and I didn't know if Josh Allen was going to be a dude that could really elevate a bunch of talent around him. I know he's a dynamic playmaker, but I didn't think he had that club in his bag. This year I was proven wrong how good of a season he had, MVP season, with I'd say a diminished roster on the offensive side outside of James Cook having a good year that we've seen the last couple years with Stephon Diggs and young, exciting tight ends on the rise. San Francisco, this is what a window closing really looks like, is quarterback uncertainty, veterans that were massive contributors a couple years ago starting to decline, and money issues are starting to rise. So the money's not good, the quarterback is uncertain, and all the guys that you were taking the Super Bowl with you 3 years ago, they're not those same guys anymore. So this is actually window closing because you need at least 2 of those 3 to not be happening, and they got all 3 happening. If they had a good quarterback, I wouldn't put them in window closing category. Right now, that's getting pretty close.
The red flags though are just like violently glaring. They're very, very there's very limited positive signs. The best thing that they can do this offseason is pay Brock Purdy, and it's not as great of an accomplishment as I think many people would think.
They could get it done. Everyone could sign that paper.
It's great for Brock.
We got it done. Look at us.
Yeah,
it's on him now. That's what those scumbags are going to do. Like they tried to do with Trey Lance. We bought ourselves 3 years. Good luck.